Todd, did you know it takes 37 muscles to frown, 17 to smile, but only 7 to twist the throttle? Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is to make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. Well, we're really close to Halloween, Todd, so today we can talk about something scary, and it is scary, and, I think it's rational, but we're going to talk 10 scary motorcycle statistics. So anytime you ride a motorcycle, there's always someone that wants to talk to you about how dangerous it is. So as we walk through these, we'll be talking about those things and kind of address those. And yeah, some of these are scary and we'll get to that. So the first one is motorcycle fatalities. So we're starting off with a bang.
It's a good number one.
Hello, welcome to the show. Motorcyclists are 29 times more likely to die in a crash than car occupants. And before I go any further, I've got statistics here, and we'll include links in the show notes for all these if people are that interested. But, I think bikes are not safer than cars. I think that's pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah.
And kind of coupled with that one, I think that is number 2, with helmet usage. Helmets reduce the risk of injury by 69%, yet only half the states have helmet laws.
Mm-hmm.
And so, those two, I think, go hand in hand, because I think a lot, as it said here, head injury on motorcycle accidents and then, of course, fatalities are going to be worse if you don't wear a helmet. I kind of always say, is like, would you want to jump out of a car at 55 miles an hour with no protection? I would not. That's why I choose to wear a helmet,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you thinking about that one? Or those two kind of combo?
Well, yeah. To me, this is all just like obvious common sense. However,
Yeah.
It is a choice. Wearing a helmet's a choice. And, eventually, just like they did with seatbelts, the insurance companies eventually will kind of force that.
Well, and
right.
With some of that, that would be something. I guess this is personal injury. It's not like wearing a helmet is going to save your motorcycle from getting hurt. But not all helmets are the same either. So even 50% of the states that have the helmet law, you'll see some pretty small helmets. And again, I know that people that are forced to wear a helmet are going to wear a smaller beanie style helmet that officially passes the rules. And I guess that's what it comes down to. For me, I think I don't really. I've rode a couple times, handful of times with a helmet, and it is more. It's not. It's kind of a more open feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I guess for me, I don't. I just want to protect my head.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what it is. But I think it comes down to choice
and the beautiful face.
What's left of it. So anyway, I think that's enough said on that. Just talking about injury, of course, motorcycles have an 80% chance of injury or death. And that's kind of goes along with the first one, 20% for car. And what you and I have talked a little bit about, it's really risk versus reward. I don't think anyone's going to go say, I ride a motorcycle because it's safer than a car. And it's not, right?
It's not.
But the experience is completely different as well. I think about that when I drive versus ride. Most times it's much more fatiguing to ride a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a whole different experience. We've talked about this a number of times. In your car, you don't realize that everything's changing every 100 feet. It could be smells, it could be temperature, the feeling of the air,
wind.
Oh my gosh, wind.
Or, dust particles in the air, and that starts hitting you on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Things you don't notice in the car.
Rain.
Rain, of course.
It's just very different. And you sometimes hear people say, oh, riding a motorcycle is like flying a plane. And I heard something recently that says, no, it's more like a horse. And I'm like, that is perfect.
Yeah.
It actually, I shouldn't say that because I've never rode a horse, but my perception of riding a horse. And you sit different. Like sometimes I'm kind of surprised when you're in traffic and you kind of look over, you're much kind of higher off than.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
with a horse, you're 6 or 8 feet off the ground. So
Right.
you have that factor falling. But it's about the experience. The riding a horse, riding a in a car and riding a motorcycle, there's experiences there. And it's a completely different experience being in a car than it is on a motorcycle, on a horse. And that's what we're riding for. And that's why we ride, no matter what you're riding.
Exactly.
That's why you ride. It's for that.
And what I'm also so surprised or shocked is the view. Like, you can drive a road 100 times and ride it once on the bike. You see completely different things.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. Because the smell makes you turn.
I don't know.
I agree.
But it does. It's a huge difference. And one of the reasons I think you just said that. It's one of the reasons why I love to ride motorcycles is because of that experience.
Yeah.
I don't think number 4 is a shock. Alcohol impaired motorcycle crashes. 43% of fatal single vehicle motorcycle crashes involve alcohol. I mean, I don't want to say duh, but like, I guess, yeah, don't drink and drive in a car, in a motorcycle, on your bicycle,
on your horse,
scooter, on your horse. None of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a bad idea. You're not thinking straight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's a horse Uber, but whatever it is, don't do it. Period.
Yeah.
This was interesting because it can be a misleading stat slightly, but number 5, nighttime motorcycle riding. It says 37% of motorcycle deaths will occur at night. So the first thing is like, well, then you must ride in the day, or, daytime is more risky than night, but a lot more people, less people ride at night.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think if you could, there's probably nobody to track how many people ride at night versus ride during the day. But for the most part, just visually speaking, when you're driving around at night, you're not seeing as many motorcycles as you are in a given day. So there's just a lot more risk factors. And we'll talk about lighting here in a minute, but the more lights, like it isn't, that's probably bad to say night and day difference, but but having proper lighting, whether it's in the car or on the bike, is imperative to like quality night riding. I mean,
yeah, I feel like people see motorcycles from the front. Usually the front lights are plenty lit. Now, as much as they do in the day or night, people still don't look for motorcycles. So we're invisible most of the time anyway. But from the rear, there's a big difference on one motorcycle versus another. Some motorcycles are really lit up in the back. Others have one single small red tail light.
Yeah. And there's some very inconspicuous LED lighting now. I mean, LED lighting has changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
Even just where your license plate mounts, it almost can't see it, but it's like super bright LEDs that when you hit that brake lever, because that's when you're going to, trouble ensues when people are really on your bumper. And with those devices or those lights, man, they really light up. I mean, and you catch it because it's, you see some of the cars doing this now. When the brake goes on, you get like a triple blink on the taillight.
Yeah.
And these will do that, triple blink. And that really does catch the eye, more of a strobe effect. So I think riding at night, definitely more dangerous. I kind of enjoy it sometimes, but you do have to make sure you have proper lighting. I think that helps make that better. This is kind of an interesting stat. It really just talks about motorcycle riders' age and fatalities that go with it. So they kind of look at both ends of the spectrum, 25 to 34 and 50 and older. So you have, 16 years? That's not a problem in the middle.
Everybody's safe there.
But I mean, I account for the highest motorcycle fatalities. 36% of the deaths happen in the 50 and older crowd. 25 and 34, I'm presuming, is really just, hey, you're young. It's probably early. Most people don't get a bike much before 25 years old. They're riding more powerful motorcycles because those are the cool ones. I mean, I think that makes sense, and we'll talk about some training in a minute, and then I think just hopefully people are thinking about training. And 50 and older, I think you just got to gut check once in a while. It's like, if you're, you hate to say see a doctor to see if they'll let you a motorcycle, because mine would probably never tell me to, but
right.
But I mean, honestly, you just got to gut check, I think, right? I mean, like, if you can't hold the bike up, if you're having troubles, if you're not strong enough, if you're not mental enough, if your medications that you're on are not proper for that, I think you just got to be careful. But people ride well into their 80s. I mean,
yeah, they do. And there's all kinds of factors that affect balance, inner ear issues and things like that. So yeah, I really think that you got to check yourself.
Yeah.
Or look out for your friends.
Well, and that's just it too. I mean, I know though also, like, we've changed our pace as we've gotten older. We've changed what we do. And I think the people that I know that ride are that old, they're not going as far. They're not going as fast. They're just being careful. I mean, I think that makes sense, but it is a real concern in general. I think you just have to kind of box this one in a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a surprise, but 35% of fatal motorcycle crashes occur at intersections. Failure to yield. I mean, you see the car crashes that happen there, and I mean, it is harder to see motorcycles, period. I mean, so that comes back to the section about night driving, more lights. I have some very nice extra lights on my motorcycle. There is zero doubts that people see me more now because of those lights.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, they're bright. And I don't even have them turned up all maximum brightness during the day, but it's something about that extra set of lights. It's just no doubt about it.
Yeah, one of the things that I notice that I do, and I don't know if I have always done this, but I try to make eye contact, especially when I'm coming to an intersection and someone can turn left in front of me.
Just to say, hello.
I kind of make eye contact, make sure you see me, right? Before I try and go through this intersection.
I do that, and I also watch the wheels. Like, so if like the tires start moving, then I'm more cautious. And I'll flick my, brake lights.
Oh, I do too.
When I flick my brake lights, the whole Sons of Thunder come out with the with these lights. So it does. I mean, it's startling. It's that bright. And we'll talk about this also here soon. But distracted drivers since the age of cell phones, man, you see it all the time. I mean, they're just looking down and roaming around. I mean, it's bad.
It's drivers in cars, but it's also drivers on motorcycles.
Anything. We're addicted to that phone. One little ding, and I mean, I tell you, I'm so happy that the Android Auto and the CarPlays have come out, because you can interact with the phone while your head's up. I like it when they shut that features down. It's a good thing. Number 8 is kind of a positive of these negatives, I guess. This isn't positive, but motorcycle licensing and motorcycle training. 36% of motorcyclists involved in a fatal crash don't have a valid motorcycle license.
True. Wow.
And I guess, I don't know, in Iowa where we live, it doesn't take much to get a motorcycle license. But it's pretty minor. You can take a test, and then you can do a small driving test to get a motorcycle license. I mean, and the worst part of it is you have to turn around in a fairly limited sized box. I think it's 10 feet, maybe.
Probably a little more than that, but
12.
It's a 3-sided box. You got to go deep into it and turn.
Right. Like, I think if you Google like the Chicago box, I think is what it's called. You go in, you have to turn around, do a U-turn in that. Along with that, riders with the proper licensing and training are 23% less likely to be involved in an accident. So that's pretty good statistics. I mean, because you got to know that sometimes it's not their fault. So when you're licensed and when you're trained, you're much less likely to be involved in an accident. That's kind of proof in the pudding there, I would say. I mean, you and I have both I've taken the basic class. That's how I got my license in the first place. And then you and I have both taken an advanced rider class. And I believe that day that we took it, there was probably 15 bikes, 18 maybe at the most.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, there was 3 motorcycles there that passed, in my opinion, could do all the things. That was scary.
It was.
That was eye-opening. So this is people that want to get better that still aren't that great.
They're licensed already.
They're already licensed. They rode that bike too. I made sure I left either before them or waited well after them. It was scary. I mean, it was and a lot of this testing was slow maneuvering. So it's not like the turnaround U-turn that we talked about. That's not part of that you wouldn't see, out on the highway. But high speed cornering, when people don't want to learn to how to lean the bike. I mean, the physics of motorcycles are very interesting. There's gyroscopic things going on, and your momentum and your speed actually helps maintain your verticality. I mean, so wow, if you see it when you watch these crash videos. Anytime you see a crash video and someone is like more or less going straight off of a curve, it's because they have an understanding how motorcycles work.
Right.
When you turn opposite, which is the weirdest thing in the world to do on a motorcycle, you're reducing the diameter of your wheel, which makes it shorter, and you turn in. That's why the motorcycle tires are cupped. It's amazing, but that's how you turn corners, and people, you see them fighting to try to do the opposite of what they need to do. And it's not funny, but it is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So any thoughts about the training or licensing? I mean,
no, if you haven't taken an advanced course, I would recommend it. They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Advanced riders courses are wonderful.
Number 9 makes sense, I think, in two points. It's motorcycle riding in urban versus rural areas. 61% of the fatalities occur in urban areas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just more total people there.
Yeah.
So you have more opportunities to get into a multi-vehicle crash. I think just more traffic, more problems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know that that's surprising to me.
No, I would say in rural areas, you might have more objects on the road.
True.
Dead animals.
Yes.
And things that have dropped off of vehicles, but definitely more people in the urban areas.
When we plan our trips, a lot of times we plan if we're going to be in an urban area to ride on the interstate, if we're bypassing. But I will tell you this, it's very difficult for motorcycles to maintain, like if we have a group of 4 or 5 people and we're in a city,
mm-hmm.
It's hard to stay together.
Very hard.
And then the other thing that's hard is there's just so much going on that I think you have to level up your attention that you're paying, because
mm-hmm.
I mean, I've found myself distracted by a driver, a car or something, and then I'm coming up hard on your backside or something like that. I think this is where we talk about the communicators, especially in urban areas. You can miss a turn and you're just saying, hey, I'll catch you at the next corner, or I'll do this, or I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're kind of almost paying too much attention to the crowd than the traffic at hand. And, so I would say just be very careful, especially when you're off the interstate in
mm-hmm.
urban areas. I mean, I think urban areas are not as safe as rural. And then on top of that, like streets in urban areas are much worse than interstates in urban areas would be what I would say. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the big one, I think we've mentioned this before, but the number 10, the worst thing for motorcycle riders is distracted drivers. 1 in 4 motorcycle crashes is caused by distracted car drivers who don't see the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough. I think there's just the cars are so nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice in there. You have all the comforts of home. I mean, I tend to watch Netflix or, I got to catch up.
Well,
man.
I mean, they're quiet inside,
oh, gosh.
And the stereos are very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a surprise,
mm-hmm.
I think. And then texting, cell phones, touch screens, and just the fatigue. I think we're all fatigued anymore,
mm-hmm.
and it's just never good.
Yeah. I know that I've been in my car and not seen motorcycles. I haven't caused any wrecks.
Right.
Nothing's ever hit me, but I did.
Wow.
I did stop at an intersection one time, looked both directions, pulled out, made my turn, and just after I made my turn, there was a motorcycle like right there, and I thought, how did I not see him?
Right.
He didn't have to slow down, but the next car didn't see him either, and I saw in my side view and my rear view mirror, a car pulled out in front of him. He went over the top.
Oh God!
He was okay because he got up immediately. He was threw up his arms and he was yelling at the car driver. But how we both missed him was we looked to the left and there was trees up the road. It was a hill, and he blended in with those trees just perfect.
Well, and I find myself doing that sometimes too. I'm watching the car that's in front of when I'm in a car. I'm watching the car that's in front of me instead of doing my own decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So you make a bad choice, and then I'm like, hey, let me go. I think that's one. But you and I have also agreed that, like, I think you have to ride like you're invisible. You have to protect yourself when you're riding a motorcycle, so that, like, you have to assume that no one can see you. And if you ride like that, it's not maybe quite the rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe your turn to turn, but I don't want to get into a fight with your car and my motorcycle.
Mhm.
And cars are getting bigger too. So like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's worse and worse, I think, to get in an accident. This is a section we call the toolkit. We share motorcycle gear review, and other riding tips. For the toolkit today, Todd, maybe we can wrap this thing up and seeing like what are the things, and some of these we've mentioned, but what things can we do to, improve, as riders and make it as safe as it can be, because we don't want it to be too spooky, right? So just building rider skills. I mean,
Yeah, the advanced motorcycle rider courses in your area. Look at the community colleges. Look at,
Harley dealerships.
I was going to say the
Yep.
Harley dealerships will list them. It's worth it. Take one. You'll enjoy it. You'll learn something.
I think the three things always is learning to turn in high speed, because it's scary at first.
Mhm.
Just emergency stops. Those two things are my top two. Just practice stopping, like on your own. Just get out on a country road and practice that quick stop, because it feels funny. I mean, you got to know when your rear brake's going to lock up. If you don't have anti-lock brakes, you got to know these things. More for a brake is usually, it's scary because you think, oh, I'm going to flip the motorcycle over. It's really hard to flip a motorcycle.
Yeah, and
over.
when you mentioned high speed turns, you see a lot of crashes come because a turn happens and someone ends up going straight.
Yeah,
because they don't want to really push and lean into it. It's almost like they don't trust the tires. You should.
It is scary.
Yeah, you should try and practice some higher speed cornering and turning, maybe in a big parking lot or an area that there's not cars, just to see. And I don't say push it too far.
No,
your tires will stick a lot better than you think they might.
Well, the funny thing about motorcycle tires is when you get in the turn, you actually have more tire on the road.
Yeah,
there's more surface area. So and then just like we said, riding defensively. And so the second thing, and you and I are big proponents, not everyone is, and that's a choice, is just safety gear. I mean, high quality gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't wear gloves as much as you do. I have some fingertip or less. There you go, fingerless gloves, but always a helmet, and a jacket, and I've got body armor in my jacket. But if I were to, put on just like a flannel or a sweatshirt or something, I don't have that armor. But
well, we just interviewed, Kristen from Bond Body Armor, and I tried it out on this recent day trip, and it was unbelievable. And I'm not so sure that I didn't get less fatigued with it too as well. So I'm interested to try that out again. But boy, I mean, when you have good armor on, though, it doesn't get as scary when you're going into the curves too. I mean, it's like you kind of, it's a little bit, makes you feel more confident, which is good. It reduces injuries if that thing happens. And it's just, I don't know. I feel good about knowing that even if I crash the next day, I can go back and do what I need to do. When you're wearing the right gear, it's really, most times, it's just it's an accident, and only the bike gets hurt, which is what we're looking for. Yeah. You talk a lot about motorcycle maintenance, but it's important even in this, which seems kind of weird. But I think you've mentioned before, if you have a brake that's sticking or something that's loose, you can sometimes pay attention to that stuff.
Absolutely.
As opposed to the road, get distracted, and that's not good.
Yeah, and maintaining the proper tire pressure, low tire pressure in your front wheel can actually make some wobble happen in that front end.
Yes,
that's scary.
And weight balance from front to back. Yeah. We've talked about it a number of times. When you're going on a trip, you're usually packing more than if you were just running down to the grocery store. So you need to make sure you know what that weight difference does on your particular motorcycle, because you can stiffen shocks in the back on some bikes and make some adjustments. But and then just plain old route planning. I mean, if you don't like to ride in urban areas, then go around. Unless you have to. You don't have to go through towns. I mean, I suggest people ride the interstates through towns a lot of times, because if you go on old route number 12, old route 12 is driving right down through Memphis, or whatever town, right? And that's terrible. Like, getting in traffic in motorcycles is terrible. Yeah. Because I don't like it. We've been in rain and in a dead stop traffic on the interstate, and I hate it. Yeah. Because I'm always afraid that someone's coming up behind you, to hit you. So, And lastly, I think once you've made your choice that you're going to ride motorcycles, just embrace it and have fun, because that's why we're doing it. There's always there's always risks. We'll respect the risk, but gosh, I wouldn't want to not do it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Long.
Yeah.
If you liked the podcast today, please like and subscribe or sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop, and we promise no spam.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads, the stories ride forever. Take care.